Good evening. Welcome to the August 21, 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. At this time, I would request that everyone please turn off or mute all cell phones and other electronic devices. Also at this time, I would ask everyone to please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Applications for conditional use permit requests and rezoning requests will be heard during tonight's meeting, and the commission will vote on those applications and make a recommendation to the county council. The applications will then be scheduled to be introduced before the county council at the Monday, September 9th, 2024 county council meeting. Public comment for conditional use permit requests will be taken during tonight's meeting and at the county council meeting on Monday, September the 9th, 2024. Public comment on conditional use permit applications will not be taken at any meeting of the county council held thereafter. The following documents are introduced as a matter of record for this evening's public hearing and regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Those documents are the Unified Development Ordinance of St. Charles County, including zoning maps, the year 2030 Master Plan for St. Charles County, which includes the year 2030 Future Land Use Plan Map, and the Rules of Order and Procedure for the Planning and Zoning Commission as adopted by Resolution 21-01. I see we have a quorum. Is there a motion to open the meeting?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. All in favor, sign aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're in business. How we run the meeting, I will read into the record the application, and then we'll ask staff for their report. After that, if anyone here on the commission may have a question for staff, we will answer. The staff will answer those questions. Then we'll ask the applicant to come forward and present their application and answer any questions that the commission members may have. And then we will open it for a public hearing. If you're wishing to speak, we ask that you fill out one of these cards. They're over here on the rail, and give them to Jack. This ensures we get your name correct in our minutes. Okay, so if you're going to speak, fill out one of these cards, please. For the public hearing, our rules of procedure are in order. So each person will have 3 minutes. Once things get repetitive, where every person is speaking about the same issue, we will ask you to limit your comments so that we can move the meeting along. Once we have finished with the public hearing, we will close it. Once we have closed the public hearing, unless there's a request by a commissioner, then we will take no further comments from the public. Then we'll ask the applicant to come forward and answer any questions that may have come up during the public hearing or any questions that the commissioners may have. Then at that time, the commission will consider the application and we will take a vote in public. So that's sort of the structure of our meeting. Where is... if you're here for a zoning map amendment request at 678 Forestdale Road, J Brothers Land LLC, or a preliminary plat request for Auden Meadows, PRE 24-06, those two items are remain continued or tabled. They will not be heard this evening. So the first item on our agenda is a zoning map amendment request. The location is 140 North Point Prairie Road. The application is RZ 24-06. The property owner is Agape Church of Wentzville. The applicant is Agape Church of Wentzville. Current zoning is A, Agricultural District. Proposed zoning is C2, General Commercial District. The 2030 Master Plan recommends commercial land uses. The area consists of 4.78 acres. The location is 140 North Point Prairie Road, located at the southeast corner of Dovetail Lane and North Point Prairie Road, adjacent to the city of Wentzville. This is located in Council District 1. Staff.
This is case number RZ 2406. The property owners have requested a rezoning from A agriculture to C2 general commercial. The current land use for this property is a church, a parking lot, and a telecommunications tower. The church is requesting this rezoning to allow for the property to be marketed for sale as a commercial lot. No development plans have been relayed to the county. This property is surrounded on the north, south, and east by residential properties and nearby subdivisions. The property to the west has been annexed into the city of Wentzville and is currently zoned A agriculture in the city. Future development on this parcel is expected to be multifamily housing or commercial uses. The property is currently served by its own well and septic system. Should this property ever develop with a more intensive use, it will likely require a water and sewer connection. Should this be required, it is likely that this development will trigger an annexation requirement from the city of Wentzville, as the city provides the utilities in this area. This parcel is well served by the transportation network in the county. It is located a half a mile from the intersection of Highway 70 and the David Hochul Parkway interchange. Approximately half a mile west of the subject parcel, Phase 2D of the the David Hochul Parkway is in progress. This phase will extend the parkway north of Goodfellow Road, as shown on the thoroughfare plan contained in the 2030 master plan. The 2030 master plan recommends this parcel to be developed commercially. This land use is defined by the master plan as general retail to serve neighborhoods, the community, and offices. The City of Wentzville's land use plan recommends this area for medium to high density residential uses. Based upon this oral report and the written staff report provided by staff, we recommend approval of this application for rezoning the property from A agricultural to C2 general commercial.
Any questions for staff? Hearing none, we'll ask the applicant to come forward. And I forgot to say, if you speak, since this is a public hearing, I have to swear you in. So,
Yes.
You solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Robert Guinness, the law firm of Guinness and Bueller. My address is 50 Hill Point Court in St. Charles, Missouri, 63303.
Go ahead, sir.
And I have with me Pastor Mel Bond and several members of the church and their staff. I'll be considerate of your time, but there are a few points I want to highlight today. So, actually, there's something wrong with, oh, there we go. So the site is already well-suited for commercial uses. The parking lot has 119 paved parking spaces. The interior of the building has a 21-foot-high ceiling, and it has an auditorium that's 150 by 58 feet and makes it well-suited for a recreational facility or a health gym facility, and they've already gotten inquiries from people who want to use it for that purpose. And the reason why they're asking you for the change in zoning is to market it to those people who are saying we want the zoning changed first before we're considering buying it. Also, there's a wide access, paved access onto North Point Prairie Road already. Okay, if I can get this to work. As I mentioned, across to the west of North Point Prairie, there's a large area called the Discovery Center, where it's intended to be used for commercial and high-density residential, possibly. There's already some commercial development over there. And this property, if I could get the point. So the church is right there, and it's right across the street from this development. In fact, the commercial development has begun. This is a photograph that was taken about a month ago. So granting the application will not only conform with the 2030 master plan, it will reflect the current improvements that already exist on the property. It'll align with the intended purpose across the street. It'll move the property from tax exempt to a taxable commercial base. It'll support the Agape Church's community plans to move their church to a more suitable facility, and it'll recognize the factors that staff already pointed out in their recommendation to approve the application. So I want to thank you, and if there are any questions, I'll be glad to address them.
I have a question on Dovetail Lane and two properties to the rear. What is this, is Dovetail Lane an easement over this property?
I don't know if it actually is an easement. I do not think it's a public road.
It is an easement.
Yeah, okay, it's an easement.
It's a recorded easement?
I don't know if it's recorded, I just don't know that information.
Yes, it is.
Roger, I got a question. So it's kind of confusing. Why are you rezoning this to the county? Because if you're going to do a plan, a commercial plan, you're going to have to get a site plan, and like Mark said, you're going to have to annex in the city of Wentzville. So it just seems like-
Possibly not. There already exists a mechanical septic treatment system on the property that's sized for the use of about 1,000 people at a time, and also a well. So if you're going to use it as a gym, it's already developed for that. It already has the infrastructure in place for that.
But why the rezoning then?
Excuse me?
Then why the rezoning?
Because the recreational facilities is a C2 under the current land use zoning ordinance.
So to clarify, you're keeping this as a church or?
No, we're going to sell it to someone.
And your intent is to sell it and they're going to be able to use the existing well and the septic?
Correct. And if they don't, then it's up to them if they want to annex into Wentzville or not.
Is that
that.
acceptable for us? I mean, my understanding is if a property comes in, they have to be hooked to public utilities, isn't that correct?
If it's within reasonable distance. I think for sewer, it's 200 feet. I'm not sure water is specified.
How far are you from sewer and water?
225 feet, I think the staff report was.
And that's also if they're doing any new construction. This would be an existing building using, just a new use inside of that existing building.
Okay.
Correct.
But if they were to do a new development that's more intense than what this one is, they would be.
Okay.
They would.
That's correct.
Okay. That makes sense. Are you doing anything, you're not doing anything as part of this rezoning? Because there's some issues with runoff, I understand, from your parking lots to some of your adjacent neighbors. Is there any detention or anything planned to address that, or?
No.
No, okay. So C2, you're going C2 because of the gymnasium, did you say?
Yes, if somebody wanted to use it for an indoor recreational facility, that's a C2 use under the county's land use ordinance.
So that's why you're doing that instead of C1?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
I had some similar questions. I think you answered some of them. You said that you have a commercial septic system that's sized.
It's called a mechanical. It has a 4,300 gallon storage tank.
Okay.
And a 1,200 gallon chlorine contact filter system in
Okay.
it. And I've been told that it's been sized for at least 1,000 people at a time, because that's what the church congregation was.
I did have someone ask me some questions about this. He was not able to be here tonight. It's one of the neighbors.
Sure.
And he did mention that on Sundays, that it does apparently, and again, this is just hearsay, that it does get kind of like squishy there, that it doesn't really hold up to the number of people there, and also had some concerns with stormwater runoff. But again, I guess that's really more of a question for staff. Is there going to be any requirement for, it sounds like not required to hook up to sewer, so they would be able to use the existing septic, and then no additional requirements for stormwater plans?
So without new construction, we could not apply more stormwater requirements to the property.
Okay.
As far as the septic, I believe that we have to have a septic inspection as part of the transfer of the
Of
property.
course, yes. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you very much.
We will now open the public hearing for application RZ 24-06. Is anyone wishing to speak? Come forward.
First time to a P and Z meeting.
Okay. Please place your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings on the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes.
Please
I do.
state your name and address for the record.
Steve Amrine, 222 Greenway. So we're the neighborhood directly adjacent to this property. talked to a bunch of people on our street and the other street going. These are all very nice homes, 3 to 5 acre lots, that'll be directly negatively impacted on this. We're strongly against just an open recommendation of a C2 zoning change, because as well, they might say it couldn't be a gymnasium, but it could also be a car repair facility, use your imagination of what's in C2. There is, from what I understand, to the owner, to the south of there, some runoff issues. I also know that the back side of the property butts up to other residences. So, they could be subject to light pollution, all of that stuff. My biggest concern is that without a business actually purchasing it with a plan, that this is just a open-ended rezoning, and we're stuck with whatever could be there. Almost everybody on our street is against it, as well as the other street. Right down the street is Bear Creek. Very nice homes, up to probably $1 million homes. I'm sure once they figure it out that they will be bringing the pitchforks down. Also, you guys rezoned the property at U-Haul, and that building is a monstrosity. It's quite embarrassing. Look, I don't know that we need 7 storage facilities next to us, but that genie's out of the bottle, same way as with a open-ended zoning. The other thing is there are no other commercial building sites other than the school from there all the way down North Point Prairie, all the way to 40. I think the house 1.5 houses away is a beautiful home with a beautiful lake. The guy's very proud of it. I'm not sure that he would be real excited, even though he's not here tonight to speak about it, or maybe he is, I don't know. But that's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? You solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings, or the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Gerald Carter. I live at 164 Dovetail Lane. So I abut this property on the east end, and I use the easement from the church to access my property. There's another piece of property, residential, right next to me that also uses that easement and abuts the church property on the east end. And I see that the master plan has called for this piece to be zoned commercial. And I would like to ask you all to reconsider that, to at least keep the commercial on the west side of North Point Prairie. Because all along the east side, well, actually, once you get to Goodfellow Road, the entire North Point Prairie is residential or school property. And it would be nice to keep that in our area, to not have another piece of commercial just kind of stuck there among these houses on the east side of North Point Prairie. So I would just like to, and also, I'm not sure what C1, C2 means, but just leaving it open to where anything could go in there instead of saying, we have a plan, here's what we want to put in as commercial. It leaves a lot of leeway open to where we don't know what's coming in there and what's going to be affecting our property and our property values. So I'd like to know a little bit more about that before you consider approving this. And just put my vote to keep commercial on the west side of North Point Prairie, if that's an option.
I do have a question. Do you know for a fact that your easement is recorded?
Yes, I'm sure that, well, it's been close to 40 years, but if I remember correctly, we did have it recorded, yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? You solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings with the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate. Mailing address is P.O. Box 1535, O'Fallon, 63366. And this area with the David Hochul Parkway, there's another, I just came from a road board meeting at 4 o'clock today, and there's slated to be, over the next couple of years, another $40 million put into that parkway. Wentzville is a growing community. There's going to be a lot of changes, a lot of heartache that is going to go both ways. There's going to be some reuse of properties and rezoning over the next decade. It's going to be a busy corridor with ongoing construction with the David Hochul bypass going through the middle of the city of Wentzville. That parkway is going to generate business, and it's going to bring in additional residential dwellings and additional commercial spaces. A church can be put into any type of zone, and so I don't think that it's too much for the church to ask, since they're selling the property, for the rezoning of C2, which I would be in favor of. However, that's with a caveat, and I think that you as commissioners have an obligation to support and to make sure that the people behind here that testified that their property values are adhered to. And so I would ask the commission to put the following list of conditions. Number one, that upon the county council approving the rezoning, that a county septic system inspection be done in reference to our county codified code, which would mandate that type of inspection for not only the well system, but also the septic system, since there were some issues that it might not be up to snuff and it might not be up to today's requirements. If and when this property sells and improvements are made, I would ask that they be required and mandated to meet the State Department of Natural Resources and our county codified code for M4 water management and erosion requirements. Number three, if improvements are made to the property, that they build a better buffer zone and comply with our code between residential and, between commercial and the residential portion of this property. I think that some high white spruces, some type of type 3 landscape barrier would be negate the separation of the two uses of these properties. Hopefully you all read the City of Wentzville letter from the Director of Community Development about their comprehensive plan. So we have two comprehensive plans. Our county recommends commercial use, and the City of Wentzville recommends a residential type use. For those reasons, I think that if the church is growing, if they want to sell and go to another area, we really should adhere to property value rights and allow them to sell. And they're going to have to find a buyer who can reuse the property. But that property owner also has to meet our requirements in our codified code to bring the property up to specifications in today's code. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else wishing to speak regarding application RZ 24-06? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing, ask the applicant to come back. Anyone have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I was just wondering, you mentioned the possibility of a gym or some sort of a health club. Do you all have someone that is considering buying it, or was that
Yes.
just, okay?
And I do need to mention that there was a question about, well, it's kind of open zoning. Well, anybody who's going to change that site is going to have to submit a site plan if they want
Correct.
to change the structure. So that fear really is not applicable to this request. That will be done when there's a site plan request. Also, if somebody does put something in there, they could always change it later, even if it's changed to a C2. It's certainly not an agricultural property, if you go out and look at it, as my pictures show. It's not agricultural. So what is it? Well, the master plan says it should be commercial. As Mr. Dinoff said, the times are changing. It was zoned agricultural in 1959. A lot has changed. I'd ask you to adhere to the master plan.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Roger.
Yes, sir.
So do we require buffers, though, for if we're going from a C2 next to residential, a landscape buffer? So are you proposing any landscaping? I mean, it sounds like this is just a formality for you to sell it to whomever that they're going to annex in the city of Wentzville. Is that a safe?
If they're going to do any changes to the site, they would have to do that. I don't think they has to be
It doesn't have to be
done.
under a rezoning?
That's correct.
Okay. So can you tell us what the planned use is going to be for this?
We are marketing it. We don't have a contract in hand. We've been approached by someone who wants to use it for, volleyball and basketball and gym-type purposes.
Okay.
And they said they will not talk to us until it's zoned C2.
I got you.
That's all I
Okay.
have. I'm not going to make any representations or promises to the commission that I can't back up with a piece of
That
paper.
makes sense. I was just trying to understand because wouldn't get the full picture, but thank you.
So if we grant the C2, do they have to, right now, put up the landscaping buffer and things?
They would only have to put up a landscape buffer if they did a change to the site.
Okay, so that's the only way, okay.
So any change to the site?
Anything that would require like a
Site
site
plan
plan
or-
revision.
Okay, so could they potentially build a bigger parking lot? I mean,
That would require a site plan.
right, because of stormwater issues and such. Okay, so there's not really much they could do without having to have a site plan.
Yeah.
And then if they had to have a site plan, then there would become a lot more
All the things.
requirements.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And that would be on them.
Correct.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So the chair will bring application RZ 24-06 back to the commission for consideration. So staff, when I looked at the permissive uses, we're saying this falls under recreation with their anticipated use, recreation, commercial, indoor.
Yeah.
Correct.
And
Yes.
that does require a C2 and not a C1?
Correct. Yeah.
Would there be any possibility of doing the same thing with a conditional use permit, or does it have to be C2?
My understanding is it's got to be C2.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve application RZ 24-06, which is the rezoning from A agricultural to C2 general commercial district on the property located at 140 North Point Prairie Road. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion made by Ms. Famer. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Porter made the second. Ms. Barr, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
Ms. Famer?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
And I vote yes, it passes. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is a conditional use permit located at 2440 South Highway 94. This is application CUP 23-22. Property owners are Joseph A. Coaster and Craig A. Daly. The applicants are Joseph A. Coaster and Craig A. Daly. The current zoning is A agricultural district. The conditional use request in two parts. A, building structures or open spaces for conducting weddings and/or wedding receptions or other private parties. And B, a private club. The parcel area is 6.22 acres. The location is located on the southeast corner of the intersection of Highway Double D and South Highway 94. This is located in Council District 2. Staff.
As you might remember, last October, this application came forward for the original CUP request for weddings and private parties. Since then, they tabled it at that meeting based on concerns that they heard from the commission and the residential neighborhood next to them. One of the changes they made was add the second conditional use for a private club to be used for German cultural and heritage activities. But as you said, the parcel itself is about 6.25 acres. It's at the intersection of Highway DD and Highway 94. One of the concerns was the access to the site. They went back with MoDOT, consulted with MoDOT about possibly moving the access to the southwest portion of the property where the residence is. Since then, that didn't work. They kept the location of the entrance where it's at, but instead of it being a 3/4 access, it's now full access. So when I say 3/4 access, people who were driving on Highway 94 could enter the site going either way on the road, but you can only exit to the right. The neighborhood was concerned about people turning around in their neighborhood, so now with a proposed site distance easement along the corner of the property that would remove trees and bushes, they now satisfy that site distance for vehicles coming both ways. When we analyze conditional use permits, Section 405.510B of the UDO sets out 5 criteria that we should evaluate those requests against. The first one is would establishing, maintaining, or operating the conditional use be detrimental to or endanger the public health and safety of the general welfare. Weddings, events, and private club activities will primarily occur inside. They addressed the traffic concerns with MoDOT, got a MoDOT-approved entrance to the site. So based on those factors, staff finds that the conditional use as proposed would have a minimal adverse impact on public health, safety, and general welfare. Second criteria, would the conditional use injure the use and enjoyment of the property in the immediate vicinity for purposes already permitted? The primary concern here usually with private parties and weddings is noise. Since they're primarily indoors, one of the conditions we suggested placing was to limit amplified noise and to add operating hours as a part of their conditional use approval. There is a tree line buffer on the southern portion that abuts residences. We've also requested that tree line buffer be enhanced where it might be missing mature growth of trees. So with those conditions in mind, we think that would mitigate any injury to the use and enjoyment of the properties in the area. The third criteria is would this conditional use injure the aesthetic and or scenic values of the vicinity? Like we said, we're requesting a type 2 buffer so that the buffer to the residences is maintained so that the visual land use impact is upheld. There would be landscaping required on the front. Like I said, the site distance easement has to be free of trees and bushes, but there's other places along 94 that they can do front landscaping, which is required through a site plan. The fourth criteria is would this conditional use substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood? Staff has no data to suggest that either of the proposed uses will diminish or impair the property values. And finally, the fifth criteria is would the conditional use impede the normal and ordinary development and improvement of surrounding properties for uses permitted in the zoning district? We don't believe the proposed uses will do that. To the north is an already existing quarry. To the west is an already existing farm. I believe it's a hayfield, and then an already developed subdivision to the south and southeast. So we don't believe that this would interfere with any further development going forward. So with all that in mind, staff recommends approval for both conditional uses, along with the suggested conditions in the staff report. I say suggested because as the commission, you could modify, add, or remove conditions as you see fit. But I do want to make note that as of earlier this afternoon, we received 11 letters of opposition.
Any questions for staff?
Yeah, I have a question. You had just mentioned that you recommend approval of this, but in the report, it says that the proposed uses do not fall within the purview of activities commonly associated with agricultural. The development may run counter to guidance provided by the master plan. It says here, staff doubts the likelihood of the proposed use as presented would conform to our standards of the conditional use permit, and underscores the need for further examination and potential adjustments to align with our criteria. So can you cover, you said recommended, but in here, it sounds like we need a little more information to make sure this truly conforms to our requirements and the master plan.
Yeah, that was just an oversight on my end. That was before we got some of the information about the access for MoDOT and the revisions they made. So that was just an oversight on my end. But with the changes they did make, staff believes that they meet the criteria in 405, 510B.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? Hearing none, we'll ask the applicant to come forward. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or the pains and penalties of perjury?
I will.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Lisa Johnson. I'm with Amundsen Davis. My address is 7711 Carondelet, Suite 800 in St. Louis, Missouri,
Cool.
63105.
Go ahead, please.
All right, thank you. Okay, I've got a presentation. I will move through it fairly quickly. It seems long, I know, but so the property is, we've got an outside aerial to the left as an overview, which shows the quarry to the north, the farm property to the left, and then the residential area to the south, just to kind of give you an overview, and then zooming in on the property itself, down in the bottom left-hand corner there, that is the applicant's residence. They live on site. Again, this is zoned agricultural. Those are some views of the property as it is now. The surrounding zoning does include some CUPs that provide for commercial uses, which are the stone quarry directly across the highway to the north, and then some other uses in the fairly immediate vicinity there. The first use is for private event space, for weddings and receptions, corporate events, kind of group events of 150 indoor guests or less. And then we've got the hours there. The second use is for private clubs. Private clubs is defined in the code as use of a structure or part of a structure for small events on invitation, or private events, not just for general admission. So both of those uses then would be limited to people that were only invited onto the site. The inspiration, some structures that the applicant is looking into are here. There's a barn, there's 2 patio areas, and then the main structure would have the board and batten look, the white or natural look that would be aesthetically compatible with the scenery that's on site now. The concept plan has been revised since the original presentation to you. This not only includes the recommendations of MoDOT, which I'll talk about in a moment, but it also shows that the parking area has been moved from the outside where the detention basin is now on the right side to the interior. The homes are to the rear, are to the bottom of that diagram. So it, along with the tree line that's along the south side, that movement of the parking lot into the north area is also an improvement. The parking only requires 46 spaces, but they've provided 101. Part of the reason for that is so that there will be absolutely no off-site parking. Everything will be contained. There's not going to be people on the road trying to park out there. It'll actually be on site. Outdoor lighting should be, would be building mounted and would take into account all the recommendations that staff has added as conditions. The applicant's agreeable to all of that. And then you can see on here the eastern property line southeastern, that natural landscape buffer is to remain in place, along with the additional landscaping features that the applicant's proposing. Hitting the approval requirements for CUP that were already discussed by staff, it will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare. The establishment, maintenance, and operation of the event venue will not be detrimental. The applicant resides in a home on site, and directly north of the property is the BMC stone quarry, which does not have limitations on hours of operation. It's a commercial site directly to the north. Their operation hours are going to be strictly limited by the terms of the CUP if it's granted. The MoDOT approved entrance design was given and approved by MoDOT after a lot of consideration. The engineer, who is also present for questions, as well as the applicant, can tell you that we went back and forth a few times with MoDOT just to make it exactly the way that they thought would meet safety requirements for the entrance and exit, as well as that intersection down the road. It will not be injurious to the use or enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity, and it's going to be compatible with the aesthetics of that property and that neighborhood. It will not substantially diminish or impair property values. It's directly adjacent to property. It's directly adjacent to homes. However, there is a significant landscape buffer between those, which is woods. And all parking will be on site, and all events will be private. That will be a condition that the applicant wishes to accept. And again, he lives on site, and so his interest in maintaining property values is common with his neighbors. And it will not impede the normal and orderly development of property in the vicinity. It's already developed. There's a quarry to the north, there's a hayfield to the left, and the hours and operation of this use will not impede that development. Those considerations were set out as pertaining to the wedding facility, but the private club facility will be indoors. It will be limited to fewer people at one time, and all of those discussions apply equally well, if not even more, to the private club. And that division of the two uses was actually made at county staff recommendation. So that was part of the reason we did that, because they are a little bit different. So we thought it was a good idea to go ahead and do that. Traffic considerations, this is really important because this was done to meet the requirements of MoDOT. And you'll see that area on the north that's hatched is that's an area that the vegetation will need to be cleared off, or at least reduced to a lower level to increase the sightline distance for people that are approaching the intersection to the left. Vegetation will be cleared around the area of the road. And then most importantly, the entranceway was discussed a few times, and it's not only changed so that there is no prohibition against turning right out of the exit, which was a problem for residents in the area because they thought they would, or a prohibition against turning left because they were afraid they'd go to the right, turn around in the subdivision, and then go out. So this would completely alleviate that concern, as well as originally there was proposed a double lane on the right so that some could turn right and some could turn left. However, MoDOT didn't approve of that, and we agreed because then if there were two cars next to each other, one turning left and one turning right, they would not be able to see across one another. So it was changed into two lanes, one going in, one going out, so that there would be much less problems with potential accidents. And actually, once this is cleared of visitation in that sightline area, that actually should improve the safety of that intersection, because that would apply, for cars that are just coming down the road. It would improve the safety in that area. This is just another page from the discussions with MoDOT regarding sightlines. And then the landscape concept plan will be revised to a certain extent to accommodate that sightline change for MoDOT. So the vegetation would be moved down at that corner area. And you'll see from the second page of that, there are different heights of vegetation. There will be trees, medium size, and also lower level plants. These are just some examples of native plants, which is what is also planned, so that you'll see that they'll be able to fill in that buffer area that's already naturally in the back with some lower plants or medium-sized plants to protect the residents behind them even more from any noise that might be present. There was the neighbor directly to the southeast of the property wrote a letter of support. As you can see, the property itself is where the star is. That's the property that's probably the most affected by this, and he is not in opposition to the plan. There were 10 comment letters at the time I prepared this. 2 of them, as you'll see on the right, are very distant from the property. And as you'll see on the closer view, most of them are in the neighborhood to the southeast of the property. And we're hoping that the concerns about traffic have been alleviated by this and also by the requirements that would be placed on the CUP. This is just to show that there are surrounding event and wedding venues, not necessarily right in the immediate vicinity, but this is something that has been approved in the area due to this beautiful scenery in this area and the fairly remote location. And this also is examples of those venues, which shows that it can be compatible with the scenery and not disruptive. It's actually using the scenery itself for the use. And it would be against, the interest of everyone to damage the scenery out there. These are just examples of hours that are placed on some of the locations that are in the venues. And then again, a few more photos. And that's what I have. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. And again, the applicant would also be happy to answer any, as well as the engineer.
Questions for the applicant?
So it was brought up in some letters or somewhere I read where there was concern of, while you're saying it's a private club, you're going to sell public tickets. Is that was a concern that was at the last meeting, and then somebody had mentioned it before. So can you talk about that?
It was my understanding that at the last meeting, that was a suggestion that was made as a means of possibly limiting the event to ticket holders. However, these would be events where, for example, if it was a wedding, those would be on invitation only. The clubs would have a set membership. Neither of these uses is intended, to be something that isn't an invitation-only event. And I failed to address Mr. Schall's comment earlier about the master plan. And I believe that original comment was on the second use, and it was that it didn't actually fit into that secondary element, which was secondary to the agricultural use. And it possibly wouldn't fit into the tourism element. However, people coming into a wedding from out of the area, I think that actually is supportive, or clubs from out of the general area that actually would support tourism in that area. They would come in and they would see, the wineries, this location, and it actually, I think, would support that even if it wasn't an oversight.
Yeah, I just had, I don't think this is my interpretation and your interpretation of private club is totally different. The private club, as I read it, is something that the applicant is going to have a private club, and we're going to be members of the private club and can show up to that private club. This is making it sound like it's more of a rental facility for clubs, right? Whether it be anybody, right? I don't care if it's Boy Scouts, Yacht Club that you mentioned, History Club. That's more of a rental facility to me, not a private club. So that's just where I think the difference is. And to your point about selling tickets, we have a private event. Yeah, it's a private event, but I'm selling tickets to come to the private event, right? Yeah, it's a private wedding, but we could have 50 people, we could have 200 people, right? So it's not necessarily that private club that I interpret out of the code, and that was some of my question too, that to me, this is a wedding venue and it's an event space, rental.
Right.
Which is more commercial, not necessarily agricultural. That's
Well,
where I
the
was getting at.
secondary use would be rental, but to private clubs that would have a set membership. And that's why those particular types of clubs were mentioned in the narrative, is that it still would be limited. It would be limited to the membership of that club. The club itself would, it may be more than one. It wouldn't be his own club, but it could be one that had a set membership. It wouldn't just be open, an open event.
Right, okay, but he's not having a private club.
I think that, I mean, he may have his own club that would be there that would have a set membership as well, I believe. Yes.
Do you want to ask the?
Okay.
You good?
So, for example, the St. Louis Yacht Club that was on there, you're saying they might want to come there and have a meeting. They haven't, you're not going to set it as a private club for them, but they may want to come have a meeting there.
Right.
Monthly or once in a lifetime, either or.
Well, it would have to fall within the hours limitations
Right.
and the other condition provisions. So as long as it met that criteria of being a private event that was not an open event, and it was a club that was renting it for that purpose. And I think I believe that's part of the reason that staff recommended that we divide it out, is because those really are different types of events than the wedding event. However, it still is limited, it still has the same limitations, and it's likely to be a smaller group.
So you would be saying that no fundraisers could be there?
No,
would be
that wouldn't
selling
fall
tickets.
within the definition of a club, right? No, I
But-
imagine, to be completely honest, if there was a club that had a set meeting time and they did, but that would involve people outside of the club, so no, I don't believe that would fit at all.
I mean, you'd be selling tickets if it were a fundraiser.
Right, that ticketed event is not what was planned by private club.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
We will now open the public hearing for CUP 23-22. Anyone wishing to speak, come forward. Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or the pains and penalties of perjury.
I so affirm.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Harold Rowland, 401 Clarendon Lane, St. Charles.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
I'd like to speak in favor of this application.
Okay,
I feel there's a need for this sort of venue, as my granddaughter recently found out. Wedding venues are booked from March till October, out 2 years. She finally found a venue in Pacific, and that's next year. So there's certainly a need for this type of operation. There's a nice buffer between the residential area and the Road 94. There's ample parking space, and I've known Messrs. Kushner and Daly for almost 30 years. I found them to be...
Sir? I'm sorry. Yeah, I got it. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
I found them to be entrepreneurial. Mr. Kushner is a former high school teacher in German. He's very interested in German culture. And as you know, this county was pretty much settled by Germans. But I have no vested interest in this process either way, either present or future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? You solemnly swear or affirm that you tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings with the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Elizabeth Bland, 441 Matts Way, Defiance, Missouri, 63341.
Go ahead, ma'am.
And I'm going to apologize if my thoughts kind of get random because I was typing some down as I was listening to other people speak. The first thing I want to ask all of you is, put yourself in our shoes, those that live right behind this. Would you want this in your backyard? I heard the gentleman speak about his daughter having problems finding a wedding venue. I have a friend that owns a wedding venue in Troy, actually 2 people that own them in Troy. They're not that booked. The trends are going against large wedding venues. Younger couples today are opting for hilltop, small, intimate venue weddings. Call even just some of our local wineries. Chandler Hill, Defiance Ridge, they're not booked out completely. You can find spaces. Nothing has really changed since their prior request, except they're now adding the private club to the wedding venue and private parties request. This is an entertainment venue and banquet hall that they're requesting here. Being presented basically as something else. This is commercial zoning all day, every day, what is required for what they're proposing. The definition of private club that was just mentioned isn't the same definition that's in the packet or what we were told when we've called the county and emailed the county back and forth questioning about this. It's the wrong type of venue for this location. A lot of people have told us don't bring up noise, that's just kind of nature of the beast. A lot of people live in subdivisions and they're going to say, well, it's just like your neighbor having a party. Well, it's different than your neighbor having a party because it's every weekend, it's weeknights, it's Sunday mornings, it's Saturday mornings, those days that we like to sit out on our decks, have our coffee, listen to the sounds of nature and relax, and not hear 150 people outside. Believe it or not, we can sit on our porch now and I can hear when Joe and Craig are outside. And I have no problem with that. But if I can hear 2 people from my deck through the woods, imagine 150 people outside. We know when we have alcohol, we start talking louder. When there's more people, we speak louder to talk over. This will be a lot of noise, and it will be detrimental to our way of lives. Joe also brought up a letter from a neighbor supporting this. That letter is an old letter. And you notice that those neighbors haven't put anything in the packet this time or last time. Let's see. Sorry. And again, they said this wouldn't interfere with surrounding areas. It does. It 100% interferes with us. There was also mention this would not impact our property values. I work in banking. I've done mortgages half my career. I can tell you a uniform residential appraisal will be decreased by proximity to commercial or that type of a venue. That will decrease our property values. And you've heard bad location.
Got a minute. Keep going.
Okay. Oh, sorry, a minute. You've heard the bad location. They're now talking about taking away some of the buffering so they can have the turn left. So now it's going to be, you're going to see it even more than what you saw it before from the road. It doesn't sound like selective membership. They're making it a club for private clubs. They've talked about having these local farm-to-table dinners. How are they going to sell the tickets to these? They're going to be sold somewhere that's either public or semi-public, these events that they're ticketing. They're using the guise of this conditional use for, this is an event venue, all day, every day. The other thing, too, is they're classrooms. When you look at the private club definition, it's for eating and social gatherings. It's not for educational purposes and all of the things that they're proposing with this. The other question I have is, we have never seen the second applicant for this. We've never seen Joe up here once talking about this, and that is a concern. If the 2 break up, if something happens, what now happens to this venue when we have a second owner that doesn't seem to be vested in this property? And lastly, that's it, I think. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Good evening.
Good evening. You solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings and under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Fred Cross. I live at 420 Matt's Way, Lot 21 in Ridge Creek Estates subdivision.
Go ahead, sir.
I'm here to speak in opposition to granting this conditional use permit. Now, I don't intend to repeat all of my objections that I got out of my system the last time, and there were many. However, there are just a couple that hound us. Come on, let's be realistic and honest and practical about this thing. Varying numbers, 168, 150, ever how many people over two, 70 cars, so some number of parking places, it really doesn't matter. You cannot put that many people on 6.22 acres and expect it not to have an impact on your neighbors. And we're the neighbors. Your staff, even in one of those reports, well, he mentioned the word primarily several times. Primarily in relation to inside events or outside. What's primarily? 6 out of 10? I think that's very, very loose. I'm still very confused over this private club business. I have a very uneasy feeling about that. So let's try to stop pulling the wool over our eyes. We're not fools. We didn't get where we are by being stupid. So if you grant them this permit, they'll do anything they want to anyway. How can we be sure that about this buffer zone and this additional landscaping that you talk about, how do we know that that will actually happen? There could be one excuse after another. Well, the time's not right, the season's not right, it's too dry. I don't trust them to install what this plan calls for. This is zoned agricultural, which really rubs me. It's not agricultural. They have no product to sell. They don't raise anything but weeds, yet they get the tax advantage of being agricultural while I'm right next door paying residential taxes. I don't understand why that hasn't been corrected a long time ago. In conclusion, you know, we have two choices here. What's our priority? Are we just all out for business and just want to issue these permits, and you issue a permit for a beauty shop and you get a body shop? And who enforces these conditions? So are we going to be devoted to business, or do we care about the quality of life for the homeowners who are already there? Homeowners who vote, pay their taxes, obey the law, and only want to be left to enjoy what they came there in the beginning for. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings from the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Larry Winkler, 249 Highway F, Defiance, Missouri.
Go ahead, sir.
All right, so I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to say when I came here to do this. We have 4 properties in the area. I remember watching it online in October, I think is what the date was. A lot of questions were fired back and forth during that deal. You come and you actually look at what they're doing, and you got to commend Joe and Craig on this deal. I mean, they put together a lot better of a plan than I would have done it, you know. It looks like they've met the majority of that conversation back and forth. So at this point, I mean, I'm directly angled across from them. I have a house that's half a mile from there. I got another business about a mile and a half. I'd say we've got to start thinking that that is a major corner. Now, they've alleviated some of the safety concerns. That, as an agricultural guy, is beans, not hay. But that bean farm right there is eventually going to sell, and that's going to turn into something as well. So we got to start, it's coming together. I'd say I'd be 100% behind this deal. So thank y'all.
sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? You solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings from the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please
Thank-
state your name and address for the record.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dinoff, County Public Advocate, mailing address P.O. Box 1535 in O'Fallon. I want to start off by saying this is beautiful land. We need to grow our economic tourism. We are known as the Napa Valley compared to California right here in the Midwest. As you heard some type of testimony and other testimony, there are venues that are limited. I'd like to, make a matter of record, the 11 letters of opposition. This property is going to develop one way or the other. It is a major corridor. It's Missouri Highway 94. There have been some concessions. We've been down this road a couple different times with the site plan and the building of this property. To me, it looks like they brought up the style of the buildings to a first-class level. They're going to be investing a lot of money, a lot of value to the property and to the neighborhood. And I have to disagree with one of the people who testified. I think the property values probably would increase. But I'd like to make some much-needed conditions, some amendments to the conditions. On the condition related to the parking of the 101 spaces, I believe 6 or 7 of them have to be ADA, Americans with Disabilities, handicap required, compliant.
That's on the plans.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. It was so small I could not see it, so thank you for, so they do meet the code?
It'd be required as part of the site plan submission.
They would meet the code, right? Okay, so that's taken care of. Now, staff recommends a type 2 landscape buffer. I'd like the commission to amend that to a type 3 landscape buffer, minus the fence requirement, but require the berm. I think requiring the berm would do 2 things. It would be aesthetically pleasing, it would limit sight distance into the venue, and it would limit the sound that could be created by the cars and by outside activity with the venues. So that berm, I think, is really needed in this instance. I'd like a condition that limited amplified audible music. I was kind of unclear about the staff's recommendation. If it's totally going to be confined to inside, would that require the doors to be shut? And if it gets hot or the air conditioning is not operable, they're going to open up those doors. And so I'd like a condition that addresses the amplified audible music to 9:30 or 9:45. I think that's reasonable. I think that's only sensible to do that in those cases. I don't see anywhere where there's a condition that prohibits the discharge of fireworks. And I believe the New Melly Fire Protection District would require a permit. And in the other venues, you definitely put that condition in writing. And I would ask that the commission add that condition since staff just left it out. The limiting of guests, as you all know, over the past 5 years, there's been a lot of wedding and event venues coming before you. You've limited the amount of people to the amount of square footage, parking, and the amount of acreage. I would ask that this commission be consistent, that you treat all applicants fairly, and that you put a maximum amount of people to attend or be on this property at one given time or one given event.
I think it's in there, isn't it, 150?
It's not in the conditions.
I didn't see it.
Okay. That's just what they're saying, that they're gonna, like they're,
It was part of their
Up to
presentation.
150 indoor guests.
yeah, it's a fire marshal thing.
But I think it would have to do with square footage of the building, parking requirements,
And
those
that- yeah.
restroom availability.
The building code would dictate.
Yeah, so that's
that.
automatic, kind of.
But you have the obligation on a CUP to put that in as a condition to protect everybody, and I think that, I'm asking the commission to do that.
I
It's
think,
in your- it's
I
in
think
your
you could, if you
preview.
wanted to. But the building, like I said, the building code would dictate.
It wouldn't hurt anything.
It's in your rights, how about that?
Yeah.
We can limit the use. The building code's more of a life safety for
Yeah.
how many people can be in there.
Right.
So it comes down to this. I'm not happy with what I heard the attorney and the applicant go on record of the definition of the private club. That puts up a lot of red flags, a lot of concerns. You heard testimony about that. The caveat, and it sounds like that there could be a possible abuse. The attorney could be looking for a loophole for the applicant. And so I would like this commission to drill down and tighten this issue with definitions, limitations, and I have to say, how the attorney presented the information and what I heard in public testimony, it sounds like an event venue and not a private club. And so I really think we need to tighten down the screws and to put definitions to protect everybody and everybody's investment and property values in this neighborhood. I have to go with staff recommendation. It complies with our county 2030 master plan. I have to be a proponent for this property with the amendments that I've asked you and proposed to you to amend. You can go above and beyond what staff has already recommended. I think it's only, you've heard the testimony, I think it's only in your preview to do the right thing and to put these amendments in there to protect all. But it comes down to that private club. From the testimony of the attorney representing the applicant, I don't think it meets the definition of a private club, and it definitely reads all over the place on that property. It's going to be an event venue and anything goes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone?
We'll come back to you.
Hold on. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing, ask the applicant to come back.
Condition 10, it's private parties.
Can I say something real quick? Just so we're clear, there's two different conditional uses being applied for
Right.
that you have to vote on. One's the buildings, structures, open spaces for wedding events and private parties. It's not strictly wedding events
Right.
per se. And then a private club, from my understanding, which is just a singular German heritage club.
But that,
So presumably, you could, as a private event or party, you could rent out the space to the St. Louis Yacht Club.
yeah, anybody. That's why I'm a little bit confused about the two, because basically everything that they're suggesting falls under conditional use 10. Building structures or open spaces for conducting weddings and/or wedding receptions or other private parties.
Right, and I tend to agree with you, but it was suggested that we divide that out because some of the events that would be used, and more to define that it was a selective group, that maybe have regular events at the location. However, I do believe that it would fall as well within the event use. I would agree with
I
that.
mean, that would be a private party, right?
Yeah, that'd still be a private party.
So are
But
you?
it would be, yes.
Are you
yes.
looking to have any particular private club that's permanently there? Or are we just looking at private parties that would be conducted by other groups, including other private clubs?
Okay, maybe the applicant would wish to speak, I don't know, but he is very interested in several German organizations that are
So
clubs
he wants to have his own private club as well?
as well, right?
You solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings on the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes, sir.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Joseph Kester, 2440 South Highway 94, Defiance.
Go ahead.
So I don't plan on having like a permanent club there. The concept is, so I'm really active in the Sister City organization in St. Charles County. I've been for years and years. I helped start the MyFest in St. Charles. And so we oftentimes like to have private events and things like that ourselves. That's one of the big things. My concept going beyond that was, I worked with high school kids, right, for years, just went to Germany with them. I would like to do some things like, we have lots of hiking trails in the area and stuff like that, and form some like hiking clubs and some honeysuckle eradication clubs and different groups that are interested in things where there's a meeting place to come together and kind of have that as a springboard to do those kind of things in the area.
Is there a reason that you would need a separate conditional use permit for that? Would that not fall under the private party?
I just know that I've gone through a lot of hoops with the staff, and
That's
that
what
was
they
what they
suggested.
recommended. Mr.
Okay.
Myers, I think, before he left, and we talked about how to make this work. And by the way, I wouldn't have gone through. I'm trying to do everything by the book, right,
course.
by the rules. So
I'm wondering, and you may not be able to answer this, but would it potentially be that your private clubs would not pay to use it? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, that's also part of it.
Okay, so we have the private parties where they would pay to use it.
Correct.
And then we have where you would basically let people use the space for free, which would fall under the private club.
Absolutely.
Okay, I
The-
think that might be why there's two different conditional
Okay.
use permits, but
And
I'm not,
I would also point out that this is his residence, and
it's your home, okay?
presumably, he would be able to do that regardless. Right.
One would think that you'd be able to have a private party in your home, yes.
Right.
Do you intend to shoot off fireworks?
No, that should have been in there. No
Okay.
fireworks before should not have been allowed.
So we could add that to the?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I didn't think you
No,
were
I
going to
didn't
do
want that, no.
fireworks here. So if we can maybe add that as a condition, I'd make that motion. But,
Well, you're talking about fireworks in connection with an
like a wedding, you know, they'd fight off fireworks if someone.
You can forbid it completely. I don't want to shoot fireworks ever, so, I mean, it could be in there as.
It's my understanding
No.
that anyone who wants to do a firework display has to get a permit through our building and code enforcement staff.
Yeah, that would be fine,
It'd
yeah.
say no fireworks unless they have a permit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He's even agreeing to no amplified noise outside the building,
no
so, right.
That would be very kind to your neighbors to have no amplified noise
right.
outside the building.
I've taken all that to heart. I really have, everything that's been brought to me. And this is one application, by the way, and Andy is still on board, my neighbor, and the Tranklers. But I mean, I've tried to take to heart everything that's been mentioned, berms, sound, location, everything.
So I see here in the recommendations, number 5, it says, "All events, meetings, or functions held on the subject property and all amplified sound shall end no later than 11 p.m." And it sounds to me like you said you would be willing to include a recommendation or a condition that there was no exterior amplified sound.
Correct.
So number 6 actually
It
says
doesn't
that.
say
I
exterior,
just think
yeah.
we need to take out the, and all amplified sound on number 5 to make it clear that number 6 means no amplified sound shall be used outdoors.
That's what it is. It is.
Well, I
separate.
think number 5 is referring to amplified sound indoors.
Yeah, it's an indoor thing.
Okay, yeah, I think
Yeah,
you're
like
right.
a DJ or a band.
Yeah,
or-
that's right. Yes.
Yeah, so I think they're okay separate.
And I'd also note, based on your comment about 11 PM, the proposed hours are from Friday to Saturday, music ending at 11:30, and that's on the weekend, with guests to be gone by 11, and Sunday through,
10:30.
or 10:30, right, guests to leave by 11.
10:30, okay.
And Sunday through Thursday, the music is to end at 9:30, and this is all indoor.
Could we
guests
add
leave by
that to your conditions? Would you be open to that?
That,
It's
it
part of
should
our,
be. I think
it's
it's
part
in
of
there.
our proposal.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I see. These are recommendations at the end that
Yeah,
are,
those are the staff recommendations.
okay, but your proposal is actually more restrictive than the staff recommendations.
Yes. Yes. And a few other comments that I just wanted to bring up is the buffer being removed from the front of the property for safety purposes doesn't mean that that landscape plan will completely remove any landscaping brought farther back into the property. That would still be in place, and that is opposite side from the residence. And then also the area in the back where I suppose that's where they want the berm is being proposed. There will also be additional vegetation added there to also help shield any noise, visibility, and things like that.
Can I ask, how many times have you been before the Planning and Zoning Commission for this? Is this the third time?
I believe so. Second time?
Second time,
Yeah.
okay.
It's just been tabled.
It's been
Okay.
tabled several times.
And the tabling was always to address.
To
an
address
issue,
a concern.
Yeah. Mhm.
So you've made a lot of changes to your plan.
Yes, ma'am.
You've updated it and taken into account a lot of the concerns that people had.
Yeah.
Right, and a few plans did go back and forth with MoDOT too that you didn't even see, because we did go back and forth with them a few times to make it acceptable.
Is this an actual elevation drawing of what the building's gonna look like, or is this just a placeholder?
No, it will be a barn, a wooden barn structure, though, a full-size, full timber, full dimensional, not metal building or something like that.
There was another one.
One of the folks that spoke talked about changing it from a level, type 2 buffer to a type 3, which obviously is more, with the berm, requires the berm, more vegetation. Would you guys be willing to do that to help kind of curb some of these concerns about
sir.
sound?
The residential area, you mean?
Yeah.
In fact, it was my idea to put the berm across the entire back with elevated trees so that headlights wouldn't affect the neighbors. I mean, I know them, so, they're my neighbors, and I'm trying to be neighborly with everything. But the berm concept, and even the moving of the parking lot, where the tranquilers are, there's the two in, that water runoff, my concern was even that would go in their backyard. So where we moved it now, that's all green space still over there, so they won't pick up any extra water that flows through the tranquilers or
There's a
through,
detention area over there.
yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll bring this application, this is CUP 23-22A, which is a conditional use permit for building structures or open spaces for weddings and/or wedding receptions or other private parties to the commission for consideration.
Motion?
There's been a motion by,
Mr. Ellis?
well, wait a minute, let me.
You gotta bring it back to them.
Yeah,
I'm
so,
sorry.
You gotta bring it back to them.
so, since it sounds like we're making several changes to our conditions.
Just make it one, yeah.
Well, I heard an addition of a no fireworks without a permit, an addition of sound restricted after 9:30
I've
PM.
got, I'm
You've
getting
got it?
ready to handle that one, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, and the fireworks, we don't,
Don't need.
we
Don't need it.
We don't
Okay.
need that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Okay.
redundant.
okay, let me put it this way, so withdraw your motion.
I withdraw my motion.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve CUP 23-22A for building structures or open spaces for weddings and/or wedding receptions or other private parties.
Conditions of.
Located at 2440 South Highway 94, subject to the following conditions. A site plan in conformance with the concept plan attached as part of Exhibit B must be submitted to and approved by the St. Charles County Community Development Department prior to the conditional use becoming active. 2, the applicant shall submit to the county evidence of approval by the Missouri Department of Transportation for a commercial entrance for the proposed conditional use. 3, a type 2 landscape buffer conforming to the requirements of section 405.435 of the county code shall be installed and maintained between the proposed parking lot and residence to the east. 4, the building occupancy will require a fire suppression system reviewed and approved by the county Building and Code Enforcement Division. Now, all events, meeting, or functions held on the subject property and all amplified music, amplified sound rather, shall end no later than 10:30 PM on Fridays and Saturdays and 9:30 PM Sunday through Thursday.
Did you say type 2 barrier or
Yeah,
type?
I
We
thought
had
we-
discussed type 3.
Type 3.
Right, type 3. So here where it
We
says,
want type, well, we got type 2
Number
here.
3.
Yeah,
So
we want
my
type-
question with that is type 3 going to require a fence as well?
Fence or berm.
Or berm?
Or berm?
It's the applicant's
and I believe he
choice.
talked about raising it up and,
Is a berm.
yeah, as a berm,
I-
and putting,
I would like to see that be a type 3 if we could.
yeah, we said type 3.
Okay, so I'll go back, so recommendation number 3 is a type 3 landscape buffer conforming to requirements of section 405.435 of the county code shall be installed and maintained between the proposed parking lot and residence to the east.
and if commissioners want that to be a berm in specific, they need to specify that.
Best berm instead of a fence.
A landscape
Berm.
berm.
Is that rather than a fence?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think the fence would be even more of an eyesore, so that's why I want to make sure we don't do a
Yeah.
fence.
Let me back up here. Okay, so recommendation 3, a type 3 landscape berm conforming to the requirements of section 405.435 of the county code shall be installed and maintained between the proposed parking lot and residence to the east.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Now, number 5, All events, meetings, or functions held on the subject property shall end no later than 11 p.m. On Fridays and Saturdays, and 10 p.m. on Sunday through Thursday, period. All amplified sound shall end no later than 10:30 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays, and 9:30 p.m. on Sunday through Thursday. No amplified sound shall be used outdoors. All parking must occur only in the designated parking areas shown on the attached concept plan. All exterior lighting that exceeds 1 foot candle shall utilize full cutoff light fixtures to prevent light impact to surrounding properties. All events shall be private. No conditional use shall be an active use until such time all conditions of approval have been met. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve CUP 23-22A.
So moved.
With the recommendations I just set forth. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Barr made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cornwell made the second. Ms. Bamer, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
No.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So CUP 23-22A passes. Now we have to consider CUP 23-22B, which is a CUP for a private club on the property located at 2440 South Highway 94.
I'm assuming all terms and conditions for the previous would apply.
Yep.
But do we need this?
Do we need the same terms and conditions?
No.
For the private club?
Do we need to approve a private club?
It sounds like they.
What do you say, Counselor?
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think having the two different requests, either way, you need to do an up-down vote on it.
Oh, yeah.
As far as whether it's necessary, I think that's more of a decision for the commission to make. There may be some redundancy there, but it also sounds like there would be some additional uses available if the private club request was made. I'm not so much sure if it's a legal matter as much as it is a policy one for the commission at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like basically the only reason that they would need the private club portion would be that they could have events that were free as opposed to paid.
Right, and I think that would sort of be where it diverges. Someone, I believe you pointed out, it's also a residence.
Yes.
So he could host residential
A birthday
events.
party.
Come to my house, and let's just go sit in my barn.
I guess the concern or where the commission may want to take a closer look and consider the private club is, there's a difference between a birthday party and a meeting space for, I don't know, if the club were to have a business meeting there. That seems to be where the second request is relevant.
And a business meeting would not fall under a private party because it's not paid for, or because it's not a party, it's a business meeting?
It's kind of hard to say in the hypothetical. I guess what I was envisioning was an unpaid event. I'm thinking of a meeting of a board of maybe the German Close, St. Charles County wants to meet there, get together to pass their budget or something, but they don't pay, and the venue doesn't intend to charge. To me, that would not be a commercial event.
Okay.
And then I think the private club use or request would be relevant.
So it basically allows him to have events that are unpaid?
Yes, that's my understanding.
And then can we make the same conditions applicable to that? Yeah.
Okay. So is there any other questions about the CUP 23-22B, the private club? Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to approve CUP 23-22B, a private club located at 2440 South Highway 94, with the conditions set forth in CUP 23-22A.
Motion.
No, here it is. Okay, motion by Ms. Parr, is there a second?
Ms.
Second.
Bamer, that was Ms. Bamer.
Oh, you made the motion. Mr. Shell made the second, you the last?
Sure, I don't care.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Cornwell, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Parr?
Yes.
Ms. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
No.
Ms. Bamer?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay. The CUPs, our recommendation to the county council and these two CUPs will be heard at the county council meeting in this room on Monday, September the 9th, 2024. So the county council this will be under their agenda on Monday, September the 9th. So this is only a recommendation. The county council has to approve it. Okay. The next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes of our July 17th, 2024 meeting, which was our workshop meeting with the consultants. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the July 17th, 2024 meeting minutes? Hearing none, Chair will entertain a motion to approve those minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of approving the July 17th, 2024 meeting minutes, sign aye.
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. Planning zoning division updates. Mr. Herbert, do you have any update for us?
I'm here, so I might as well give you an update. How you doing? Appreciate your time, your interest, their efforts. So as you know, Robert Myers has left the county. So we are all dealing with a large hole in community development. Robert committed 11 years of service to the county and did a great job. We are all chipping in as a department, as a division, to kind of work by committee. We've divided up a lot of his duties in the interim to try to kind of get through the process. We have the job posted, have a number of applications already submitted, so that's all. We're off to a good start. Hope to have a great a group of quality candidates that we'll go through. My goal is to fill that position as reasonably soon as possible. And then, but we are entering into the county budgets time. Robert left right at the right time for him. So we're going to be going through a lot of different things in the department. But yes, in the interim, staff is going to step up and be able to try to cover for Robert as we go forward here, and wish us well as we go forward.
Hey, Mike?
Yes,
I
sir.
thought it went real smooth tonight. I thought everyone chipped in, did a
Yeah.
great job, so thank you
Thank you.
all,
Very
Liz,
good.
Jack, and everybody.
Especially on a
Yeah.
controversial issue.
If, on behalf of the commission, if you by chance talk to Marissa anytime soon, would you pass on our thank you for all of
I
the work
will.
that she did?
That's the other part we're dealing with, so. So we'll have people filling in as we can to try to take care of that
You got
time.
a 1-2 punch and just.
It was,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
So,
you did a good job, so thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All in favor, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, sign aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Jerry. Yeah.